Hey, welcome everybody. I am Suzanne Hanna and I am the founder and creator of Global Healing Collective. And I am very excited today to introduce you to someone who is not only an amazing, amazing woman, but a good friend and who really, I know in my heart of hearts is passionate about creating impact in the world. And so I wanted to introduce you to Lisa Sharpe, who is the founder and creator of Stylish Sparrow. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is so much fun.
Yes.
So Lisa, I am just really curious because I think that very often, people don't see the connection to the different businesses and organizations that are creating impact. And what you do is very unique in how you create impact, I believe. And so I'm curious, what inspired you to begin building and creating your business?
It started from personal experience. I've always loved clothing and fashion, and I always have felt good in what I wear and how I show up in the world. And at a certain point in my life, I started to struggle with it. I was living in a small town where that wasn't kind of what people were doing, and I tried to blend in, and then I had a size change and a bad haircut. And I just went through a time of really feeling badly about my appearance and how I was showing up. And I realized that I was really compromising how I show up in the world so that I could fit in with the place where I was living at the time. And all the feelings that came up inside of me gave me insight into how I think a lot of women feel every day, or have felt the majority of their lives, or have felt for seasons in their lives when they haven't felt good about getting dressed and how they show up. So that was kind of some personal insight and a personal experience that started to shape my desire to share my talent of putting together outfits and developing personal style with other women so that they can start to really enjoy that experience, because we have to put clothes on our body every day, like that. We can't opt out of that for most of us.
Unless you're in a commune of some sort, yes.
Right. So if it's something that we have to do every day and yet it makes us feel bad about ourselves, that just made me really sad, and just really lit a fire within me to work with women to break through that and find freedom and enjoy that whole process of getting dressed and showing up and how you express yourself.
And I think that's so crucial, because I don't think there is one person out there that doesn't have some element of their body that they struggle with. Even if they can accept and love certain aspects of their body, there's always something that they struggle with. And I know for me, for any of you guys out there who are in menopause, but I know for me, as you said so beautifully, we go through many changes in the course of our lives. And so we may be up, we may be down, but the bottom line is that if we're not in a place of acceptance, and if we're not feeling good about how we're showing up, it's going to reflect everything. It's going to reflect how we show up in relationship, how we show up in our work, how we show up in, one of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with is being the face of their brand and being the face of their company. Well, if they're not feeling good about themselves, it's very hard to show up in a way that actually translates what you're trying to do.
That's right, because I think we only have one first impression. We don't get a second one. And I think that the visual of what we're wearing and everything that tells someone about us is actually the first nanosecond of a first impression. And, it's research has shown that over 96% of communication is nonverbal. So, yeah. And I think a very large percent of that is the visual of how we look, especially in that first second of intake that we see someone, and we put them in context of who we think they are, or what they do, or what they're about, or are they creative? Are they bold? Are they feminine? Are they a leader? Those sorts of things.
So I'm curious, as being a change maker or a leader, or an entrepreneur or a business owner, why do you feel the first impression is so crucial?
I think it tells people if we're credible.
Mhm.
I think if we are wearing something that's current, I don't mean trendy and what's in season this week, but if we're wearing something that's not 10 or 20 years outdated, um, then that gives us credibility that the knowledge that we're going to be imparting is
Mhm.
current and
Mhm.
up to speed and of the moment, and that we're a leader, we're on the edge of what we're doing. And if our clothing doesn't reflect that, then it doesn't match what we're
Mhm.
trying to deliver. And if we're wanting to increase our prices in what we're charging, and yet we're dressing at a very low level, that doesn't build credibility that we really are worth what we are charging if we're not dressing to that level.
I love that you said that, because one of the things that comes to me when you say that is, very often I think whatever it is that we're translating, if we're translating confidence, if we're translating alignment, if we're translating um, that we know that we kind of are walking the talk, so to speak. That's very different than if we're feeling really uncomfortable in our skin, which you and I know goes way beyond just the clothing, but the clothing certainly represents that. But if we're really uncomfortable in our skin, then that's going to translate in a certain way, and it will make people hesitate. And I've seen this even with myself. It will make people hesitate. And it's interesting, we really underestimate how impactful that is.
Yes, I can think of a personal example of considering hiring a coach myself and being at a networking event. And I'd heard a lot about a certain woman, and there were several coaches in the room. And, she was wearing a t shirt and jeans and sneakers. Um, and I ended up working with her in her closet. But it was an interesting reaction to realize that even subconsciously, not in a judgmental way, but just if I'm trying to figure out who to hire, and someone is dressed like they're going to the grocery store on a Saturday morning versus someone that's really professionally dressed and not even in a suit. That's not what I'm talking about. Obviously, nobody wears suits anymore, but someone who looks like she takes herself seriously in a professional setting in a networking event. Um, if they both have the same offer, and I want to work with both of them, what's gonna be the little piece that lets me know she's got what I need?
Exactly. So, which leads perfectly to my next question. Why do you think this is so important for leaders and change makers?
I think that back to your point earlier about our bodies as
Mhm.
women, and I work just with women. I do have a stylist that I refer to work with men. That's excellent, but I truly just understand women, women's fashion, women's bodies. I don't have that working knowledge for people who are men or identify as male. I just don't have that. Um, so I refer those to other folks, but. We're changing and we're evolving and we're not static as women, as people. But I'll speak to as a woman because we're moving through motherhood, we're moving through maybe nursing, we're moving through marriage, we're moving through divorce, we're moving through weight gain, we're moving through, maybe it's not even weight gain, maybe like for me personally, carrying extra weight in a part of my body that I never did before. Like for me, it's my belly right now at age 50.
Woo!
And it's like, where did that come from and how did that happen? And I decided to not attack that or shrink it, or I am pursuing health and fitness, and I exercise and I pay attention to what I eat that makes me feel healthy and good. But yet my body's different, and our body is supposed to change all the way through our lives. And I catch myself sometimes measuring myself against how I used to look or what size I used to be, and I have to stop myself and say, why are you doing that? You're not 30 anymore. You're not 25 anymore. You're not 35 anymore. You're 50, and this is you at 50. And what's really powerful is that midsection in particular for us that starts to bloom is what I call it. That's our seat of power in that chakra area. And so if we are becoming more empowered and growing, and I don't know about you at this time in your life, but I definitely feel more empowered and more comfortable with myself and more willing to take up room and space in a conversation or in a room. So why wouldn't that part of my body be blooming a little bit more if that's my seat of power? And why would I try and shrink that? So instead, what I can do is learn how to dress a little differently. How can I emphasize my waistline more? How can I choose things that drape just perfectly in a color that's just right and something that makes me feel fantastic? And I've even been wearing certain things, certain places, and people say, have you lost weight? And I say, nope, I weigh more than I've ever weighed before. But because of the way I'm dressing, it's just, I know how to work with my body. And so I love working with women to teach them how to do that for themselves, because it's all about revealing our shape instead of hiding our shape. And as we reveal our lines and curves and learn how to follow that for ourselves, we start to feel better. We start to feel more confident. And so that's what I like to do with each client. So as a leader or a change maker, if you're going to be standing up in front of a room, if you're going to be on a video, if you're going to be representing a company, a brand, a movement, an idea, something that you really want to change the world, if you're going to be standing on a stage giving a talk, what you wear needs to be resonant with your mindset, your mission, and your message. It needs to all come together in what you're wearing in a way that makes you feel confident and beautiful, so that you can really radiate when you're getting your message out to the world.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because I think one of the things that I find most compelling is when people feel comfortable in their own skin. And I think that that is representative also to what they look like, what they're wearing. It really embodies, and I love that idea of empowerment in the belly area and the chakra. I never thought of it that way. I think that's amazing, because I do think that the first thing we do is begin to resist whatever it is that we judge that we don't like, or that we think is unattractive or whatever. So I like that reframe. And really, and this is where I have to say about Lisa, because for those of you who don't know her, she's way more than a stylist. Okay. And I think you can see by everything that she's saying, because really, Lisa, I think what you do is you really see women. You see them in their vulnerabilities. You see them in potentially their limiting beliefs. You see them way beyond just the body and the clothes. And sometimes people need to be seen in those areas in order to transform and show up in a way that they want to show up and desire to show up. So I just have to put that out there, because Lisa has styled me in the past. And I think I felt so comfortable with you, and so comfortable with how you addressed any of my insecurities. So I really want to thank you for that. And I think that that's important to know, because if we are going to work with someone around this, we want to know that they're really seeing us. Wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I think that that's part of my, what I love first and foremost in life is people. And I was a social worker for 18 years before I changed careers. And I've been doing this for 5 years now. And seeing the whole of the person and really trying to pick up on the things that are not only someone is telling me, but also what they're not saying. Because I think some of those aspects that are unexpressed of ourselves are things that can start to make us feel more whole. Starting when we get dressed, because that's what I'm focusing on. But of course, it emanates out into all the other parts of our lives. So, for example, I was working with a woman last week who she's transitioning out of wearing her maternity clothes and nursing clothes and all of that. And now our kids are in preschool and she's ready to start buying kind of real clothes again. And everything is so different from before she had kids that she doesn't even know where to start. So she has some really basic things that she's been working with, and we added to that. And, but everything was solids and everything was pretty muted. And so I was out and about and I saw a top that was print. It was a very subtle print, but it was just perfect for her. It was the right color. It was the right scale. It wouldn't overwhelm her. It was a flattering style. So I suggested it for her, and I have a relationship with the store owner, so she let me borrow it to show the client, and she loved it, and she put it on, and it looked fantastic, and she said, I would never ever pick this.
Right.
And I said, you know what I think this is about? I said, you are bold, because she's got a lot of boldness in her personality and in the choices she's making in her life. And so I think that what can happen is some of those unsaid or unexpressed parts of ourselves, as they start to come out, we start to create a really powerful inner outer feedback loop, in that
Oh,
as
yeah.
we start to look in the mirror and we see ourselves and say, oh, I didn't know I could wear that bold print or that bold color, then that resonates with the part inside of us that's trying to come out, that is, oh, I am bold. I think I can be more bold. And so you start to build an aspect of yourself that, by using clothing, it's really powerful.
I love that, the unexpressed part of ourselves. So thank you first and foremost, because I know you are part of Global Healing Collective and a Global Healing Collective catalyst. But I'm curious, in doing what you're doing, how do you see this creating impact and ripples? And why is that important to you?
Well, that part kind of developed shortly after I started my business, because I have the mission of working with women to bring freedom from societal restrictive norms of beauty, so that they can start to really enjoy their own beauty, because I believe every woman is the ideal beauty just as she is, without any changes. And that's where we start. But what I realized through my good friend Sarah Davis and Tracy, as she introduced me to some fantastic people from Nepal, Raju and Hannah and Pabrita and Ruth, and some women, and Raju is a man that helps them through a safe house that he has established. And they are women that have come through trafficking, and they've survived, and they're thriving, and they're building their lives again, and they're healing, and they're making choices that they want to make for themselves in their lives. I learned through meeting them, and then watching a documentary film in the organization Mountain Child, and the film The Untouchables, which I have a copy of if anybody wants to borrow it. I learned how the environment and child labor and healthcare needs and education, all of these other things that we don't consider, holistically play into human trafficking, and create the problems that necessitate families feeling that they have to do that, of selling their children, or people selling themselves. So I started thinking about, and then I watched a documentary, True Cost, about fast fashion and how it's impacting the environment, and then all of the social impacts of it. So I started asking myself, how can I make a difference in this area? And where I've come to now is realizing that if I am content with everything that I have in my closet, and I know how to effectively use it and style it, and I'm really actively enjoying everything that I own, I'm more content. And if I'm more content, then I consume less. And I don't have that need to run out and buy something for $20 to wear Saturday night, because I don't know what else to do, because I feel terrible when I walk in my closet, and it's overwhelming, and it's overflowing with clothes, and I feel like I have nothing to wear, even though my closet is full. So if we can break free from that, if I can set women free from that feeling and experience in their closet, and they become more content with what they choose to buy and bring home, and how to use and restyle what they own, then we're all going to consume less. And if we consume less, then we take away the demand for fast fashion. So that's a ripple effect that is really exciting to me, to see choices that I make in my everyday life can impact others around the globe. And if I find freedom in my closet to enjoy getting dressed, then I set others free around the world. And it's so exciting, because it's a win for everyone.
I love that. And it's so funny, because I can totally tell energetically how passionate you are about that, because you totally light up when you talk about this. And I think it is so important, because we don't think about these things when we're out buying clothes, or we look into our closet. We don't think of the greater impact. So thank you for that. So if people wanted to connect with you, if people wanted to get to know you, if people wanted to learn more about what you do, where would they go and how would they find you and all of that?
I think the best way to connect would be, I think setting up a 30-minute phone conversation, and that would be complimentary, where I could get to know you and understand kind of what's going on for you in the realm of your closet, your wardrobe, clothing, shopping, all of that. And just understand kind of what your desires are and what your needs are, and
Mm.
find out how we can work together. And so sending a message through Facebook Messenger, I can also, once this is posted on social media, I can share the link of where you can book that call with me. And so maybe we can include that in the newsletter and in social media, and
For
I'll
sure.
add that to the postings. And I do send out a monthly email newsletter, and I have a link to share with you if you'd like to sign up for that. And I'm starting to do some workshops here in Denver, and eventually I'd love to have some webinars recorded that I can share about different topics, like how to pack for travel, how to put together an interesting
Mm.
outfit, how to edit and organize your closet, so that we can kind of break down the process I offer to clients into bite-sized pieces and offer you a taste of a certain topic that would be helpful.
Yeah. And I just want to leave with this message around, because I think it's so crucial, Lisa. And I never really realized this fully until I met you, which is that it's more than just clothes. It impacts how we see ourselves. It impacts how we present ourselves. It impacts what we're buying and where we're buying from. And there's so many different ripples that we are not even aware of that are happening just in how we get up every day and go into our closet and what we choose and how we show up. And so one of the things that I know is important, as I've been there before, is that very often people don't feel they value themselves enough or think it's important enough to spend the resources on doing something like this. And I just want to say, even if you meet with Lisa for 30 minutes and talk about this, in that 30 minutes for free, you will learn so much about yourself. And she can certainly tell you where there might be areas of growth or areas where you might be out of alignment. But don't underestimate the importance of this. It's not just about clothes. It goes so much bigger than that. And I think clothes is just sort of the medium and the representation of so many other things. So thank you. And is there a way, that I'm curious, if there was one final message that you wanted to leave with people about this, what would you say?
I think the underlying piece that you were getting at in your last few sentences is its dignity.
Mm.
It brings us dignity and changes the way we carry ourselves when we feel good in what we're wearing. And this is what's really exciting that I've learned in the last year as I've worked with various types of people, is that it cuts across social strata and economics.
Yeah.
It's global, it's common denominator to humanity of how our clothing makes us feel. And I remember a story, a woman who had an orphanage, who has an orphanage in, I believe it's Honduras, called the Little Roses. And she told me, I was struggling with transitioning out of social work and doing fashion because it's fluffy and am I really bringing value to the world? And she said, Lisa, when these little girls come in, it's an orphanage just for girls. They're dirty, their clothes are ripped, and they get a bath and they get cleaned up, and we have fresh clothes and shiny black shoes for them to put on, laid out for them to get dressed. And she says, when they put those clean clothes on, and they carry themselves differently, they walk differently, so it's human. And so food, clothing, and shelter are three of the basic human needs. And I've worked with a woman who's a refugee, and I've worked with a woman who's an oil and gas executive, and they had the same experience, and they verbalized what it meant to them with the same words.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
really exciting for
It
me.
is exciting. It is exciting. So I would offer you guys, if you have any questions, anything you want to know, any information from Lisa, please put it out there. And just know that one of the things that we really need to look at is the bigger picture of everything that we do, and that it isn't just about one thing, it's about everything. So, Lisa, thank you so much for doing this and being here and being a part of Global Healing Collective and all the amazingness you do in the world. So, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for having me. It was a pleasure.